Hi everyone, it's Indiana Tara, and I've got two hats that I'm wearing. So I said Westminster Falls from the Brain Response Team perspective, where I'm the transformation lead, working alongside our frontline officials, but also principal social worker for Westminster Children's Services. And when the team approached to talk about the importance of multi-agency approach, I want to be able to take a step back and think about what is safeguarding, why do we need to work together? And then you just go through some of the pieces of legislation, sort of form how petitioners and local authority make decisions about the work they're against people. So what is safeguarding? Safeguarding essentially are the actions that professionals take to promote the welfare of vulnerable children and inmates protected from harm. And it's also the different actions that enable all young people to achieve the best outcomes and receive a appropriate level of care. Learning from serious case reviews is really important here because serious case reviews occur when a significant event happens, for example, a child's death, where professionals have been involved. And all of the serious case reviews that we've ever seen talk about the importance of multi-agency working and information sharing. So the learning from serious case reviews has always been that, outcomes are not good when there's poor communication between services, and so we by connection sharing practices where risk assessments are inadequate and there is an over-optimistic thinking about the kind of situation the families are through, and where there's a lack of professional curiosity where professionals say, well, I've seen this, it means it's that, and they don't really take a step back and think about the wider picture. So the lessons learned is studying the importance of the bigger picture. All of us working with different children and families will see a tip of the iceberg, and actually what the families' lived experience are is often what we can understand with work together and share information to each other. So enhanced multi-agency which is really so important for safeguarding. Listening to children's voices is then another big going point, and really being vigilant and critical thinking. So we've seen something, don't take it at face value with feelings and what this information could be about, what different, practices may explain why we would see. It is quite full of key legislation strategy. I don't want to bore everyone, so I'm just going to touch on briefly. The Children Act 1989 is almost like a bread and butter of the social work in the UK, in England. It establishes the duty to safeguard and promote the welfare of children. Children Act 2004 introduces statutory frameworks for integrated children's services, and working together to safeguard children guidance gets regularly updated and outlines what organizations and agencies have to do together in order to support and protect the children and their locality. And of course, is the United Nations Convention on the Care of the Child, which is an international treaty which helps to ensure children's rights and responsibilities of the government in that sense. And in my next slide, I'm going to talk a little bit about principles of safeguarding and what does the importance of working together look like in practice. So we talked a little bit about what safeguarding is, but how do we actually implement this in practice? A lot of it is about child-centered approach and a holistic kind of understanding of the family. So really always we need to consider families and a child's real best interests. Thinking about the multi-agency collaboration where different agencies working together, be it the police, the health, education, social services, will have a very different angle. I mean, Tanya, you said in your presentation earlier. So by us working together, we'll bring those different angles and look at exactly the same information from different perspectives. Early intervention and the proportionate approach is another principle. So the point is to identify and address issues as early as possible in order to prevent them from escalating. But where the escalation is needed, it needs to be so balanced and really kind of proportionate to what we're seeing, within the family. So I think we're going to talk a little bit about the concerns about, social workers in this country come and take the children. We have some necessarily to work the kind of principle of safeguarding is, and we're going to talk about it a little bit more later on. Thresholds. So thresholds really differ from local authority to authority. However, Section 17 of the Children Act talk about children in need services, which are sort of accessible, for children in need, who
needs of some additional support to maintain the relevant and levels of development. And Section 47 of the TOR Act describes the duty to investigate whether it's a concern that, a child may be experiencing, or is it this or significant harm. Like I said, children's services across the country will have very different approach to thresholds, so there isn't one guide to this. But the idea is that if any of us are concerned about something we see, we have the duty to report, and that receiving team was able to think hard to where our kind of approaches meet the information that was provided for what child needs support. Could have this quite area. And parental consent, it feels like through the partnership working with school, we talk so much about consent. And consent can be a bit of a tricky point, I think, to get your head around for many professionals. So the rule of thumb is, if there's no child protection concern, if we're just working with a family who may want to get additional support, who may find it, helpful to get an initial referral somewhere, consent is generally needed. Whether consent from parents is rescued is where there is a concern that the child is suffering or could be suffering, or is at risk of suffering significant harm. This is where we don't need, and we can really override that parental consent, against about the child protection, keep the child safe. And the same applies where there is sort of imminent risk of harm to a child. And I think my final point is about the importance of working together. So multidisciplinary approach offers such a diverse input from different professionals. And what it helps to develop is a thorough analysis. And analysis is such a kind of key in children's services teams. But also when we work with refugees generally, as part of the Ukraine response and refugee services, that analysis still stands. What does the family need? Why is worrying what we're observing? What kind of support is accessible and is relevant to this particular person? So all of that conversation becomes much more richer when we have that sort of diversity of different services represented in thinking space. Again, different teams within local authorities will have very different structures. The children's services are very different in many cases from kind of the Ukraine response type teams or refugee services teams. Sometimes they will sit within the children's services bigger umbrella, sometimes they will sit elsewhere. Our team, for example, sits in environment and communities, or working at colleagues, RBKC, who sit within the housing. So again, different services across England will be positioned in different different departments. And that can in itself sometimes, mean quite a lot when we're living in cases, what the decision-making processes are, or what the kind of support that we'll be willing to kind of offer or get involved around. But effective communication is key. It needs to be clear, it needs to be accurate, it needs to be timely. So when we're sharing information with each other, it can't be, I've heard this, I think. It needs to be really specific to what you've actually heard, to be accurate representation of the situation. Regular meetings are very, very important because it brings people to come together to share the information, but also see how the situation may evolve over time. Understanding each other's roles. I think we spent so long talking about this over the past 2 years, because sometimes you may see a professional from another team, you may assume that you know what they do, but actually what they actually do, I think, is very different. So something about, as we're partnering around working together, understanding each other's roles and remits of those roles is really, really important. Considerations of the child's voice. I think what we'll find, and we have found in different settings, of the child or the family may share more with some professionals than others. Trust, we heard a word about, isn't it, in this morning's sessions. There's something about we've seen in real life that children will share so much more with our Ukrainian-speaking colleagues than they ever would share with us in the Ukraine response team or within the field services. Something about trust and setting the scene is really, really important. And then bringing that information together to think about, okay, that's interesting. They shared this with you, but they haven't shared this with you. What this may, need, and how are we going to kind of address that further? And regular reviews and feedback mechanisms are also a part of sort of effective communication within the multidisciplinary approach. And my final point that I've asked, tying into highlight, listen, read, and the safeguarding is everyone's responsibility. It is a bit of a mantra for us in children's services, but that is the reality. If you see a child who's at risk, even if you don't have a particular role around safeguarding them, it is everyone's responsibility in this country to take proactive steps in order to sort of share your views before your concerns, and then leave it to the appropriate professional team to take the lead on kind of investigation if needed. Having said that, everyone's views are valued and everyone's role within that multi-agency working is so important. So this is what the workshop is about. But thank you so much. I hope it made sense.
Okay, now we're gonna read some slides or this poem is around social services amongst desperate children.
So I'm gonna cover Tanya for this part, and best for introduction, I just want to say that Tanya, Natalia, are working as educational support workers about 2 years, someone less, someone more, but we faced a lot of situation there. I could say that the families afraid to get to know, to get in touch the children's services. And this is the big problem, and we face with it every day, because we want to refer the family or the child to some service, but the parents, the family say, no, you can't do that. It's impossible.
Yeah. They just believe misconception was is that social services want to take your children away. And that's it. That's why they start to be not contact anything, not contact the services, even early health. They have misconceptions about early health. They think it's similar to social services.
Can I share this situation?
Yes, absolutely. Last year,
Do you remember that one mom, after the school referred her to the children's services, she wrote a letter to Rishi Sunak. Yes, very worried letter that, oh my gosh, I don't want to go back to the UK because the children's services just take my child away from me. So
and she was asking, can I please send me a dear short an email from Richard Sunak that they won't take my children away, and then I will be back.
That's a great level, fear, isn't it? It's that people really experience. And I think it's one thing that we all know is not true, but actually what we really know, and this is also Ukrainian parents may say, I think there are a lot of parents from the community who share that fear at the moment. And I think we've recently heard some very public figures receiving a call from children's services and then getting quite worried about what this may mean. So it's a real fear. And so thank you for highlighting that.
And so sorry, can I just ask, is that a fear that parents had before they leave Ukraine? Is it about social services in general in Ukraine and UK anywhere? Or is it about what they've heard about UK-based social services?
Yes, I think it's what they heard about UK, how serious that they approach things directly. So that's how it is, I think.
Very key.
So, but the reality is social services' priority is to keep families together, of course, unless the child is in extreme danger. And support is aimed at helping parents provide a safe and healthy environment. And a second myth is asking for help shows weakness. I think it's a bit maybe culture.
It's a culture because Ukrainian families, they used to rely on themselves all the time. And here, they think it's just, I'm weak, I'm not coping. So my social services will think that, or judge me on my bad parenting anything. But in fact, it's not true. If you ask someone for help, it means that you want to do for your child to do better, to help you, to give you some advice and the right approaches.
And the reality of children's services, thresholds are quite high for the child protection. So a lot of these concerns that the family may have will not necessarily meet that threshold. But then we know our early health partnerships are offering amazing level of support, from the community-based, family hubs to some creative parenting programs. So there's so much that we really think would benefit these Ukrainian parents. But the issue is, how do we break that barrier? It's a lot of family got it now.
So social services provide guidance, mental health support, and educational resources, and more and more and more.
I just wanted to add that we actually, we have application support working in one of the primary schools, and the mom refused from our support on this saying, oh, I know what you will do later. He will say something wrong or something else, or the kid didn't bring breakfast sometime, then you will refer me to social services. No, thank you. So this is how the approach is.
So, and then our last slide for the myths, it's breaking barriers and call to action. And summary of the myths addressed that social services as partner,
The importance of open communication between families and us, as educational support workers.
Call to action is we must work together to build trust and break down these barriers.
Encourage families to see social services as protectors and supporters, not threats.
See family need beyond the surface.
And I think before we go to discuss real life cases and describe more closely what the education support workers jokes exactly, we would like to introduce Yana. She was one of our students from our project, and she would like to share her experience with us.
Yeah, I did absolutely people. I will just talk about a tiny bit of my experience with adaptation in UK and TRT sessions that helped me a lot. So I came to UK 2.5 years ago from a small town on the west of Ukraine. And although people tend to think that Ukrainians from the west side is less affected by war, it is not really true because war affects touch everyone unfortunately. So me and my mom, we decided to leave the country for our safety. And it wasn't an easy decision because the rest of our family had to stay in Ukraine. Air alarms, they were just constant, they were lasting 4 hours. We had to sit just in a cold basement, but it was day or night. We always had to be ready for it. So we started to search for a place where me and my mom could be safe. And we were very happy to find about sponsorship visa in the UK, and even more lucky to find the most generous, kind, and warm sponsors. They're still helping us by providing accommodation, where we have just so much thanks to them. Yeah, and they helped me to find my first UK school, where I first met my friends and Ukrainian community. So, and usually, me and my friends, it was Ukrainian friends, obviously, we were talking just with each other and not the other pupils in the school because it was just hard to adapt and feel like a part of school society because all of us experienced sudden changes and norms and values here are different. And we had to learn a new language. It was just feeling like starting all over again. But one day, we were told that every Wednesday we will have an opportunity to talk to our educational support officer, Nadia, about our struggles, our issues that we are facing every day. Yeah, and we are so much grateful for the support. We were looking forward to these Wednesday sessions. This activity was helpful to feel more united and noticed in school. And later on, Nadia invited us to take part in therapy sessions. It was for free. I was really pleasantly surprised by such an offer because I believe that every Ukrainian kid and teenager, we need social and mental support. Yeah. And in these TRT sessions, we were able to speak up. We were able to reveal our true emotions. And Nadia and our psychologist Ontaria, they teach us various techniques how to overcome anxiety, stress, frustration. They gave us so much advice how to cope in difficult and awkward situations. And some techniques I'm still using on a daily basis. For example, before I go to bed, just to feel more relaxed, or when I sat my GCSEs, and I was really worried about it as a Ukrainian student. I used some of them, and it helped me to feel more confident and less anxious about my exam. And I personally think that I've done pretty much good. Yeah, as I'm now studying in sixth form, I have to say overall, these sessions, they were useful for me and my friends. They created more connectedness among us. They just help us to understand our our feelings better. It helps us to be more open up and not be ashamed by our emotions. And I know that not many children in UK have such in squad, but I would be really glad if more of them had so, because it's very crucial to keep Ukrainian youth mentally healthy, because we are the ones from whom our childhood was taken away. and we will be the future of our country, of Ukraine, and some of us will be the future of UK. So yeah, I would be really good if we had more of free mental support in order to have brighter future, healthier life, and quality education, of course. Yeah, and I hope that everyone in this room has the same beliefs about this issue. Thank you. Thank you, Jan.
Yes. But the other thing is that was, yeah, just because I think AHCP.
Does everybody knows what AHCP is? So this is an education, health and care plan, which is, again, this was the different ages gets involved in developing that. But when a young person put that in place, like it opened the doors, it was like so much visual support that otherwise it's perceived, so really well done.
Is to case moods. So in case you, the psalmist team was working on it. So I know there will be the proper experts that will probably have nothing else to add. Okay, let's start. Petro, a young boy from Kiev, arrived in the Arcade with his mother and two brothers, seeking safely from the war. Although his father is British, Petro's mother experienced significant emotional and physical abuse at home. His father didn't allow her to work, refused to give her money, and was strongly opposed to taking Petro to school. On multiple occasions, he shouted at her, creating a hostile environment, and even falsely called the police twice, claiming she was unstable. Petro witnessed all of this, and his mother, having no immediate means of escape, had to tolerate the situation. The impact of these traumatic experiences has become particularly evident in Petro's behavior at school. Now, in year 8, he has developed a pattern of getting detentions, often for minor issues that seem to reflect his internal struggle. His teachers notice that he frequently appears anxious and withdraws and rarely speaks and engages with his peers. At times, Petro's distress manifests as defiance or anger, making him appear uncooperative. His teachers are concerned but find it challenging to connect with him or provide the support he needs, as Petro's coping mechanisms make it difficult for him to trust others to communicate openly. Okay, let's listen.
Hello. Okay. So we'll start with the school. Hopefully this school has had some kind of internal discussions. The teachers have raised that with their designated safeguarding leave. And they have perhaps put in their in-house clinical provision. If they have not, perhaps they've introduced the ESWs to that child, and they've been able to access their Center of Anxiety and Stress trauma screening, which has enabled them to access the trauma recovery groups sessions. Hopefully that triggered the involvement of health, and now maybe the child is on a CAMHS referral or is on a waiting list, and then hopefully GPs offer some reviews for that. Hopefully the DSL at school or the ESW or the GP at some point referred to children's services, and this meant that either early help or social workers became involved. They provide an assessment of need with the family and would put a support plan in place for that child. Any additional resources then that are also made available from the local authority that perhaps a family wouldn't have access to normally. If the domestic abuse is still prevalent, we weren't sure whether dad is still around or not, but perhaps we need to send a referral off to MARAC, which is a multi-agency risk group that manages that type of risk. That might involve the police, who might then have to follow their own processes and possibly offer some victim support. Like you go.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, we would try and work with the family to get some, one, around voluntary and community sector, what kind of activities and sessions are available both for the children and for mom to support. That might be just around sports activities, excursions and stuff. For the children, for mom, it might be around domestic abuse support. It might be around perpetrator support for dad if he is involved. It could be Ukrainian-based organizations like the Supplementary School or the Ukrainian Welcome Center that might just help see that sense of belonging. And lastly, employment and training, whether that's again through VCS or through the local authority, but around mom possibly hasn't had the experience of budgeting around money before, access to employment, so we want to give her some upskilling and work around that possible.
Thank you so much. Yes, that actually the opposite. But I also wanted to add as well, so hopeless is help mom to relocate and to get away from this emotional abuse. And also, mom has the work in the individual work support from the psychologist, but to simply explain it's manipulation. What he's doing is manipulation. The father was threatening, saying, I'm British and I will take this child away from you because the law is on my side. You're just a refugee, you're immigrant. So mom had to stay in the same house, only believing that he would take the child away. So she understood that was manipulation. And also, mom received legal advice on that particular case that the father will not take her child away. And all his manipulation, calling the police twice, it just was for her to frighten her.
And just again, I think be important when there is any concern about domestic abuse or any kind of direct abuse that has happened either in the family that may not even be directed to this is where you need to start taking safeguarding. So this is where that consent that we discussed earlier, you've got the right to kind of not seek. Because actually, if you were to go and speak to the family about consent, that may put the child at more significant risk of harm. So really important point to take away from this case, I think.
And I'm gonna read about case 3, and I think we'll be speaking from the parliative part, case 3. Aras, a boy from a town near the front line in Bray, moved to the UK with his mom in spring 2022. They escaped and going war. Their hometown has been under threat since the conflict began. Upon arrival, they stayed with a sponsor family, and Taras was enrolled in a primary school shortly after. Taras was diagnosed with autism and a metabolic disorder in Ukraine. His conditions were confirmed by UK specialists. At school, Taras struggled to adjust. With his limited English, the boy faces significant challenges. His special dietary needs due to his metabolic disorder required careful management, but feelings of insecurity and stress in the unfamiliar aesthetics often caused him to forget to eat, and this led to difficulty controlling his emotions. Episodes of anxiety became more frequent, and Taras sometimes exhibited behavior associated with this autism. I'm too apologizing, this is not my native English, and I'm really, really nervous to be a speaker today. So let's continue. There was some additional points. Taras' mother is divorced, and she's raising Taras alone. She had a job near the school to be readily available for any concerns. Recognizing the need for additional support, the school suggested applying for HTTP pass or nine mistakes. However, while waiting for decisions, the family faced a new challenge. The agreed time with the sponsor family ended, forcing Taras and his mother to relocate to another borough, approximately 1.5 hours away from Piscaya school. In opposite with case 1, in case 3, luckily, mom has all medical documents provided by a recognizable Ukrainian medical institute, and the diagnosis for boy was confirmed in quite short time. Then we applied for his HTTP plan. And yes, this story happened with how this moving to temporary accommodation. And that we, at that point when we have team around family meeting, big meeting we organized. And we discussed, we put on the table all pros and cons. And after all combined, the whole stories, we made a decision to support requests for local authorities and keep the boy in the primary school where he started and continue to find solution for change this temporary accommodation or closer the distance to the school. Yes, and because you were right, usually in that case, the family the family received such a received proposition. I'm not sorry.
There was an offer.
Offer to move to borough where they live, or to move the case in borough where they live. But because we were waited, because we knew that the referral for HTTP plan was on top priority.
Yes, taking into consideration it takes a while to receive to approve a HTTP plan, so we decided that the boy should stay in the same school until he gets that plan. Right.
Yes, and also to pay attention that the boy already went through a big story of adaptation in a certain primary school. We didn't want to move him into another primary school. That's why the whole team made the decision we will support to stay the boy in this primary school. And I think this case is the best case to show what the agency approach, because everyone, from every service was on the side of kid. on his on behalf of his interests. And after this decision made, we introduced the family attorney help team to provide the well-being help and support for mom as well, and to share her all varieties of services she can obtain. Okay, and luckily we received our HCP plan. And after receiving plan, boy have his own personal teaching assistant in school and behavioral specialist from CARS. And also we provided individual TFK session with Ukrainian speaking psychologists. And to implement all advice provided by a specialist, we also offer and enroll the child into our Ukrainian supplementary school. So we can, as an educational support worker, we can observe child both in mainstream British school, in our Ukrainian school. So we can combine this observation and find even quicker best solution for him.
And I think this is a really long case to highlight that rich analysis, because what Sam was saying, we'll move the child to a different school, that usually they don't come with like, this is what you do and this is not, but actually the bigger your professional is, the more professionals know the child, the more on balance you can kind of find the right proportionate decision to, and collective voice, again, to say about the young person, because again, housing as PGQ, we all know probably around this room how difficult and overwhelmed housing services are across England, but actually, if somebody as a single agency came and said, no, we need to move his child to a different, accommodation, chances are the housing department say, actually, they have nothing. But then when you've got such a rich professional network, people are able to support, that sort of rationale and really add to that professional thinking. Obviously, we've seen a really good outcome here, so...
Yeah, the stories we present for us, they are ongoing. And we can't say that all of them like with happy ending. Some of them was happy ending, but some of them are ongoing still. But we are happy with every little steps and every little success you made in child's life. Okay, and finalize our workshop about our project. We present the cases, which is quite struggling and complex. But life of educational support worker is much more complicated. Yeah, we're all like Superman and Wonder Woman in a month. I will not repeat the whole activities we are doing with the kids because Tanya already presented in the main conference. I just want to put a brief explanation why it's happened. And from one side, Sambarati Praying School offered the established job to professionally trained teachers. So we all had experience in Kishik Ini praying. And from other side, local authorities supported us and provided all necessary trainings because as a teacher, we're familiar how to teach kids and how to speak with them. But we were not familiar with all UK regulation, and that's why local authorities help us. They provided all necessary training to us and support us in every steps. So that's it. Thank you so much for listening to us, and now calling professional answer section. Yeah, thank you.